and gentlemen, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Guess what? I am Mr. Warren Hayes, hanging out with you this evening on Thursday, November 26, 2020, and we are going to be talking about professional wrestling here today. First and foremost, before we go any further, happy Thanksgiving to all of those who live in the United States of America and who are celebrating this very festive occasion with family, friends, so on and so forth, enjoying the day off, whatever it is you're doing. Hope it's been a good one so far. And I hope that I'll be able to top it off properly tonight, right here live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, which is where I record live. And if you did join us live here this evening, then you will have had the chance to listen to our boy Ben Parize's take, an homage, if you wish, if you so desire, to Owen Hart's High Energy theme. Ben composed a little something, said, "Warren, what do you think of this?" And I'm like, hey, I'm using it. I'm putting on the pre-roll just before we officially start the stream. So there's all sorts of wonderful little perks if you pop up on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show stream live. It's the kind of day that it's the kind of thing you'll be able to listen to sort of out of nowhere. So, but that being said, thank you very much, Ben, for the song. A different vibe, right, to get things going. Not the usual chill, very laid back, jazzy stuff that I had. It's a little more high energy. That's what it's all about. So thank you very much. And I do want to say hello to everyone who is joining us here live in the chat this evening. We've got, of course, Tim Traver, friend of the show. Good to see you, Tim. How you doing? Kelly Tonjes, who's here as well. Good friend of the show. How are you, Kelly? Robert Larry is here as well. Good friend of the show. Everyone is good friends of the show when you think about it. How you doing, Robert? We've also got DGMC, who's here as well. Good to see you. Ben, of course, the great rock composer, greatest rock composer of our generation, who's here tonight. Might be slightly overselling it, but thank you very much. Again, Ben, and thank you for being here. Thomas Gories is here as well. Good to see you. William Davis, nice to see you as well. And Mr. Fratz is here too. Look at that. Got a whole bunch of folks. Anakin is here too. Good to see you. Evan Wright, Nick Wolf. My God, Nikki. It's a party. Everyone's here. Thank you for taking time out of your day, and thank you for liking the video, giving it a thumbs up if you're listening to it right now on YouTube, or even if you're listening to it on your own accord later on. Thumbs ups on YouTube really do help. YouTube likes that kind of stuff. It says, hey, that's very good. I should promote it more and put it in recommended videos. It's really strange. Not a lot of people know this, but YouTube is an Eastern European person. It's weird. But like it go, hey, if you click the likes and the bell icons, people I will like that. That's what it says. Anyway, thank you very much. If you're enjoying it so far, do consider giving us a little love that way. Otherwise, thank you if you're listening as well on your favorite podcast application, because yes, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is available on all podcast platforms. That's cool too. I appreciate all the audio listeners as well. That's always fantastic. Reviews, likes, thumbs up, subscriptions, whatever it is you do there. Hey, that's fantastic. It's that kind of stuff always helps out as well. Don't forget to visit belltobells.com. Of course, your women's wrestling wire. All sorts of great stuff happening there. Had Kristen Ashley, First Lady of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, and also owner of belltobells.com. She did an interview with the Sea Stars, Ashley Vox, Delmi Exo, who just so happened popped up on Impact Wrestling this week for the tag team tournament that they're having, since they're reviving the women's tag belts. Fantastic tag team, fantastic ladies as well. Go check out the interview on belltobells.com. That's BELLTOBELLES. Also, don't forget to join the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord. There's always lots of fun discussions going on there. A couple of inside jokes that always seem to make their way on the show as well. And hey, Speaking about inside jokes making their way on the show, I've also started this week doing pre-shows before any of the major national wrestling shows. So on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, half hour before 7:30 p.m., I jump on live and we talk about the show, run down what's coming up on the big programs or program for the evening. So I'll be back tomorrow to do that on SmackDown. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right here, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. It's a live exclusive thing. You pop in, you're golden. If you don't, you missed it. Eep, beep, boop, boop. And don't forget, you can always join the you can also join the Mr. Warren Hayes show Patreon, where I do a Patreon exclusive live stream immediately after we're done doing this mainstream here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about what we've been thankful for in regards to wrestling over the past year. I think it was suggested to me by Anakin over on the Discord. So, if that's the kind of thing that you'd like to be able to have some input on the show, that's what you do. You pop on over to the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord. The link's in the description. But also come on over to the Patreon as well. You could also join the channel here if you want to add some emojis to your setup. Go right ahead. That's cool too. You become a member, you show some support for the Mr. Warren Hayes show, or you can also join a super chat. You can join a show. Did I say join a super chat? I mean leave a super chat. And I will read your question or comment right on the air, such as Nick Wolf, who left us a super chat a little earlier. Thank you very much, Nick. Says, happy Gulak Day. It was good. I knew it was Drew Gulak. Like, what did he say? It's like, gobble, gobble. I don't remember what he said. When he won, I was like, that's a Drew Gulak line right there. But thank you very much, Nick. Hope you're having a good Turkey Day as well. Anakin JMD left a super chat as well. Said, did you hear AEW sign Top Flight with a whole bunch of question marks? Yeah. Yes, I did. And these are one of these little jokes at my expense that are being made over on the Mr. Warren Hayes discount. The discount Discord is how I like to call it, basically, which is why I got both confused. I want to say hello to JK Schwal. How you doing? Welcome to the chat. But yeah, yes. So it's a gag that's going around. But I'm not getting into it now because it's my show and I get to talk about what I want to talk about. But thank you very much for the super chat, Anakin. All right, let's get right to it. We're gonna talk about a lot of stuff tonight. Surprise, surprise. Here we go. Weekly wrestling inspection starts now. Let us start off the bat tonight talking about my final thoughts on the Survivor Series. You know what? It wasn't a bad show. I didn't think it was. It wasn't a blow away show, but I think there was a lot on it that was. There was a lot of good, more good on the show than the opposite. And yeah, I think this is. I think this was. This was. Let's go into it. Let's talk about it a bit. Just run down fairly quickly my thoughts on it. Of course, started off with the dual brand battle royal on the pre-show. Who cares? Like, honestly, Miz won. But isn't that just the thing? Isn't that just the thing that WWE will throw a battle royal on there and get all these people in there to compete, and you're like, okay, what are they competing for? Nothing really. I was like, okay, well, if you're not more interested in it, why would I be? Other than pointing out that I was convinced that Miz was cashing in. I had predicted that he was going to be the winner, and he did. And I was like, okay, well, they're doing this so that the briefcase winner looks strong, and then we'll come in and cash in at the end. Obviously, that is not what happened. Like, clearly, that is not what happened. But what are you going to do at this point? Also want to point out how incredible the Apollo Crews push has been smushed. I'll give WWE credit for one thing, though. They gave him a longer push than at any given moment, to a point where I was starting to believe in it. But even now, they sent them to another brand, but they didn't give him the typical Apollo Crews return. You know, like, oh, he's on a new brand, and look how big and look how strong and agile. He's the total package. Why isn't he winning more matches? You know, kind of thing. Nothing. Apollo Crews. And again, just to be very clear, this is nothing against Apollo Crews himself. I think he's an extremely talented wrestler. It's WWE at this point has conditioned me to not get into any of his pushes. What a shame. I want to say hello to Aaron Entertainment. Good to see you, friend. Then the evening started off with the men's Survivor Series elimination match. Now, do we have to talk about stakes in Survivor Series matches again? I hope we don't. I think hopefully in the lead up over the past couple of podcasts that you've been listening, you know exactly how I feel and how I think stakes are important in this type of context. The only person that did have real stakes in this match was Jey Uso. And his stakes was not disappoint Roman. Right? Roman put him in charge. That was the deal. And his job was to make his team win. And he wasn't able to do that. Clean sweep. Now, I will say this, okay? I'll say this. AJ Styles and Kevin Owens had a great sequence that made me wish that we had a program between the two. I think there'd be, God, that'd be good. But obviously that's not happening. Another thought. Otis has been nothing, right? What are they doing with them? Cool him down. You got to cool him down. You keep him nice and frosty. Was getting too hot. Split up the great angle that he had with his hot girlfriend, and that's it. Just like break him up from his tag team and just have him like, I don't know. I don't understand what they're doing there. But here's the main question that I want to posit unto ye, chat. I want to say hello to, wait, what? I thought I had seen someone else in the chat. I guess I must have dreamed. Oh, no. There it is. It's unfiltered. There we go. Okay. Welcome to the chat. But here's the question I want to posit unto you, chat, and listening. And, you know, if you're listening later, let's talk about it in the comments as well. Doesn't the clean sweep, like at some point when it gets like, you know, 5-3 and 5-2, doesn't it sort of suck the air out of the match? Doesn't it just take the wind out of the drama of the match? When at some point this one team is super dominant and completely obliterates the other team. Doesn't that, it completely takes the wind out of my sails in regards to that, in regards to the match when that stuff happens. It just, I understand ultimately what it does. It creates two plot devices, one for Team Raw, which we're going to talk about, and another one for Jey Uso, who then goes to see Roman. Roman's pissed off, and then he tries to make it up to Roman. So I understand that it creates two plot devices for two different storylines, which isn't bad. But as a spectator watching the match, when it's 5-1 or even 5-2, I'm like, You know, like when you're watching your favorite football team get demolished, let's say 35-0, just, you know, throwing a number out there, not naming any names. Your favorite football team is getting devoured 35-0. What do you do? Are you still sitting there going, "Go team"? No, at some point you're like, fuck this shit, and you go and watch Seinfeld reruns, right? That's what I do. Anyway, I thought it was a very, very, very average. Very, very average. There was a couple of bright spots in the match, but nothing to write home about. Street Profits versus The New Day. Strong, fast-paced, energetic match. Loved the build. I really, really love how they built the crescendo to this match. It was expertly done. Imagine that. The New Day are a great tag team. Imagine that. Street Profits, when they're not being obnoxious and loud, and they apply themselves, they can be really good. I love how Dawkins was the power man in this entire match because there was, no Big E. And sure, Xavier Woods is a little heavier than Kofi, but I mean, he's no Big E. So I like that. I like that role that Dawkins sort of grew into here. I thought that was pretty cool. And a little nitpick though, just a tiny nitpick, because I really did like this match. But here's a tiny nitpick on it. What's the psychology of a wrestler who says, my ribs are hurting? Wrestlers kind of sound like YouTube sometimes. Just saying. Let me do the bit again. So the wrestler goes, my ribs are hurting so hard. I need, however, to hit my frog splash so that I can finish the match. What is the logic behind that? Because ultimately, Montez couldn't get the pin off of his finisher because, his ribs were hurt. So why did you do it in the first place? That's the kind of psychology that I see peppered throughout wrestling, where I'm like, I don't understand it. There are very particular moments where I get it. Like when Matt Jackson, who had injured his foot, who had injured his ankle, super kicked Dax at Full Gear. That I understand because it has a clear story purpose, so that I can get behind. But here, I was like, why did you do it, man? I don't understand. That's the kind of thing. It just irks me. It's a wee bit of just a tiny gripe. I want to say hello to Wrestling Plug Inc., who's joined us, and Injection 2K. I just said it was nitpicky. Anyway, it's the kind of thing, like it's tiny things, but sometimes when you get too many tiny things in a match, that's when it throws you off, right? But I still enjoyed the match. Don't get me wrong. I just like my wrestling to make sense. Sami Zayn versus Bobby Lashley was essentially a squash match for Bobby Lashley, right? This was essentially a setup for Bobby Lashley to come across again as big time. Now, here's what I think I don't talk enough about Bobby Lashley and the work that the Hurt Business has been doing. I don't talk about it enough on the streams because I feel like overall the faction is good, but the shit that they're put into sometimes is exactly that. It's shit. So what I like here is that it's all of this run is really creating massive credibility for Lashley. I think he's coming off of all of this. The Hurt Business gimmick from top to bottom has been absolutely perfect for him and has been elevating him so hard. What I even feel right now, or what I'm starting to feel, and I think this has been punctuated with Sami here, I think he's starting to outgrow the US title. I think he's starting to get a little bigger than that. And by God, if WWE hasn't been taking their time building Bobby Lashley up properly to become a legitimate main event threat, I don't know what it is they're doing. They can't keep him mid-card too long. They're booking him too strong. They really are booking him extremely strong. The proof was in the pudding the night after on Raw. They're protecting him, making him look massive and savage. He's going to be saddled in a main event title picture sooner than later, and it will be tons better than the quickie program they gave him with Drew a couple of months ago, where it was just it felt like too much out of nowhere. It really feels like they're taking their time to build him up into a top tier contender. And then, but at the same time, it will raise the whole Hurt business if they get a main event guy in there, right? Fingers crossed, because I think Bobby Lashley is fantastic. I think he's, especially for a guy who's up there in years as well. I mean, he's not like in his 50s, nothing like that, but you know, he's not one of the younger guys. He still looks great. He still can go, and he's being used to his strengths as opposed to the goofiness with the Lashley sisters stuff and the love triangle with Lana, which it was all shit. But now he feels credible. He's looking good. They're positioning him for something better. I can feel it. Oh, hello, Kristen Ashley. Kristen Ashley, the first lady of the MrWarrenHayes show, is here. How you doing? And Cyclops is better than Wolverine. Still a very controversial handle to have on the internet. Good to see you. Welcome to the chat. Asuka versus Sasha Banks ruled, and you're not going to change my mind on it. It ruled. Asuka brought out Sasha's ground game here. I loved the start of it. It reminded us that Sasha has a solid mat game. She has good mat technique. Both women were in and out of reversals. We expected this out of Asuka, but it really dragged Sasha into it as well, and she looked great, pulling out stuff that she learned with Meiko Satomura. Fantastic stuff. We had Asuka hitting a code breaker. Great drama match that ends with Sasha hitting a victory roll. And it wasn't a crushing defeat either, right? It wasn't like Sasha completely dominated Asuka. Au contraire, the story that they told here is that literally next time it could be different. The outcome could be completely different, and we'd be okay with it. It's just like Sasha got one up. Sasha just got one up on her tonight, and that's fantastic. They work so good together. They work so incredibly well together. I really like this match. It ruled, is what I said. Now, a match that didn't rule as much was the Women's Survivor Series elimination match. Okay, let me run through a few. Anakin left us a super chat first and foremost. Thank you very much. It says, why is Cyclops better than Wolverine controversial? It is true. I disagree. And since it's my show, I decide what controversies exist, what controversies are. Right? I was just, right? There you go. You don't tell me how to manage my controversies. Cyclops better than Wolverine. Cyclops better than the Blob, maybe. Right? Anyway. Oh, want to say hello to Dan Reed from Eve Wrestling is in the chat. Good to see you, Dan. Cyclops is better than Wolverine. Dropped us a super chat as well. Thank you very much. It says, my name is a fact, not an opinion. It's debatable. It's definitely debatable. Cyclops better than Beast? I'd go with that. Cyclops better than Colossus? Cyclops better than Wolverine? Not sure about that, buddy. Okay, let's see. So we're talking about the Women's Survivor Series match. This was not... Okay, here are some highlights. I love how Liv Morgan got a good showing here. And she really did have a really good showing. I love how Ruby Riott got some shine as well. So did Bianca, who was the sole survivor of her team. But what a garbage ending. What a garbage ending to an absolute bore of a match. Maybe not an absolute bore, but my God, there's nothing to fight for, so why are we excited? Now, here's an idea that I'm just going to throw out there, just to talk about WWE. Why not create new stars, right? And why not take the opportunity of having in-ring stuff happen to create these new stars? Because people are saying, oh, Lana. And no, it's not what I mean. I'm watching at first Bayley and Natalya getting thrown out of the ring early on, right? They're getting thrown out of the ring. You know what I mean? It's not a battle royal. They get eliminated early on. And I'm like, cool. Room for the new people. Room for the women that we don't know that well, that don't have as much time on TV, that haven't been around for. Cool. I'm into this. I like it. But no. The focus on a stupid comedy kind of thing that they have going, and that's what they decide to focus on, right? As opposed to, like, pushing Bianca and giving her a big win. You know, Bianca, a wrestler that wrestling fans legitimately like and want to see more of. Or Liv Morgan, another organically popular wrestler who has a very established fan base and wants her to get more, to do more, to shine more. Hey, don't even focus on the fact that Peyton Royce pinned clean as a sheet the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion, just like poo-poo. Let's talk about Lana standing on the stairs, all pouty-faced because they don't want me to play.
Oh, yeah.
This boggles my mind, right? This to me, it boggles my mind. So we're on the topic of Lana. Let's talk about Lana. Tying into what happened on Raw as well, right? Because the whole thing makes no sense. It just doesn't connect at all. Why would we be cheering someone who is just by fortune being tossed, has been winning won a big match, or has good things happening to them? Because, right, she spent the entire match on the stairs doing nothing, and then when there was the double countout, which, by the way, is an awful way to end a match on a pay-per-view. I don't care who or what you're doing, who you are. It's an awful way to end it. And she comes in and says, and then the promos that she cuts, and it's like, I'm the survivor. I survived. I'm just going to live through this moment. I'm just going to be happy about it. And what is the emotion? What is the emotional connection that we as a member of the audience have with Lana? And we've talked about this in the past, but how WWE doesn't understand how to connect emotionally with its audience anymore. If Lana had been involved, if Lana had, let's say, cost Nia Jax her spot on the team, had forced her to get eliminated, whatever, then we probably would have been a little more excited and be like, resolution, storyline point. Oh, look at this. Lana gets one up on Nia Jax. There's a feel-good moment. Maybe Lana gets a pin. But she did nothing. She just fell into this. How are we supposed to be excited about this? How are we supposed to say, good for you, girl? She didn't do anything. She stood in her corner and just did nothing until, well, happenstance. And then the next night on Raw, she runs into Asuka, and Asuka says, maybe you'll be next for a title match. She says, oh, no. I don't want a title match. I just want to be happy for winning the Survivor Series. And Asuka's like, nah, man, you're getting in the ring with me tonight. And then she gets worried. So I'm like, what are we doing? Why? This is wrestling. These are people who are supposed to be competing for titles. These are people who are supposed to be excited, be like, yes, I'm going to get this opportunity finally. But Lana's like, no, I'm good. I'm just happy to be here, kind of thing. And that's not what we want. I don't understand how you get behind that type of character development. I don't understand how that works. I honestly don't. How can you, as a fan, be like, I am so proud of Lana for standing on those stairs and doing nothing. It's like all this stuff is happening. Oh, and it's beyond me. It is. And I honestly thought that they were going to give a story beat here, something interesting that for Lana at Survivor Series that would just crack something open, push Nia Jax over the edge, whatever. But no, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just a situation that you cannot get emotionally involved in. There is nothing in the Lana story at this point where you feel good about her. You just feel bad for her. And now, it's kind of like, it's kind of suck that she ended up being the sole survivor and all these other women didn't, because she just stood there and did nothing. And that's not even talking about how Nia Jax is a legitimate clear-cut bully. Remember, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago at this point, when she was fighting Alexa Bliss because Alexa was a bully and she was bullied all her life, and she was going to stick up for the bully. She wouldn't stick up for bullies. She has to beat down the bullies. And now she's the biggest fucking bully on the roster right now. Come on, man. Oh, yeah. Let's take a look at a couple of these super chats before we move on. Evan Wright left us one. Thank you very much, Evan. Says, Peyton pinning Bayley was the strangest thing I'd seen on the whole show year plus reign, pinned by someone who has absolutely no creative direction. True. And could we not argue then, but thank you very much for the super chat, Evan. Could we not argue at this point that it would have been a perfect opportunity to give Peyton Royce some direction? What if Peyton Royce comes back on runs like, I just pinned the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion. Ooh, I did that clean. What's up for me? What's next for me then? Kind of thing. Infuse some life into this thing. And to your point at the same time, Evan, isn't it important? I mean, you have to cool Bayley down now, right? Oh, you got to bring it. Yeah, she, again, too hot, right? Too hot. That title reign was way, way, way too hot. Now it's time to bring her back a little. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Evan Wright left us another super chat. Thank you very much. Says, WWE thinks we love to cheer for geeks and losers. Yeah, but I mean, I like to cheer for if you give me a proper underdog story, I'll get behind it. I will. But what Lana did has what they're doing with Lana is, that's not it. She's a loser's loser. Like, she does nothing. I don't understand. It's so weird to me. Let's see what else we have. We've got a couple of them here. Anakin GMT left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. He says, emotional connection to Lana is really due to Miro. The thing is that she's fine as a valet. That's her strength. I don't know, but I also understand your point. Tim Trevor left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Tim says, Warren, my buddy, nice haircut. Yeah, the mullet is gone. There's no more of that. Thank you for noticing, though. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Anakin left us another super chat as well. Thank you very much. He says, thanks for seeing off my Alexa Warren lol. Thanks for seeing off my Alexa Warren lol. Thanks for seeing off my Alexa Warren lol. I don't understand what that means. I don't understand what any of that means. I'm sure someone will explain it to me. Okay, so there we go. That was for the women's. We're still on Survivor Series. We're still talking about Survivor Series. Drew versus Roman. I love it. I love it. Oh, the Amazon thing, setting off his Alexa. Oh, setting off my Alexa. Oh, I get it. Okay. I understand now. Okay, I get it now. Okay, I apologize. Now I get it. Setting off the Amazon Alexa. Okay. Hey, Alexa, say hi to Anakin. Oh, no problem. I'm glad I'm setting everyone's devices off. I'm very thrilled. Welcome. I hope you're having a great Thursday night. So Drew versus Roman. Now, guys, okay, here's something I think that we need to remind each other. If a match starts slow, there's usually a reason for it. They're probably going 20, 25 minutes, and they're going to want to build a story, right? They're going to want to get to a certain point where the drama sort of builds itself. And I don't want to sound like an old tired guy, because I love wrestling, period, and I love all sorts of types. But sometimes I feel like there's a lot of people who feel like if a match doesn't start off with a cardio workout, it officially sucks. Like the 5 minutes in, if there hasn't been like a workout segment, people are going to shit on it. And I'm like, take it easy, everyone. Let's just see how things go, one thing at a time, slowly but surely. So, not every match is going to be like Kenny Omega and Hangman Page at Full Gear, where they just don't stop. More classic type of storytelling, let the in-ring story build. I see people like, oh, finally it's picking up 10 minutes after, but it's like, yes, but that's where we're going to. They're not going to blow everything within the first 5 minutes of the match. And one part of it is, I blame it on independent wrestling to a certain degree, but I also blame it. Also, I think there's an equal share of the pie here with WWE, who sometimes is unable to tell proper stories in the ring. So when things start plotting, and you're like, you get worried, you get your anxiety starts to build, and the next thing you know, everything is falling apart. The match is no good, and so WWE doesn't have a really fantastic track record when it comes to building a good match. However, this match here, I thought it was a hell of a match. I thought it was a fantastic story. And we saw these guys pull out stuff that they don't usually pull out as well. We saw Drew pull out a Kimura. We saw Roman finish the match with a guillotine. I mean, a lot of people were calling it a 5-star match. I wouldn't say that, but I will definitely say that it is one of WWE's best matches this year, without a shadow of a doubt. I enjoyed it tremendously. But I will ask this. Why can't we have a main event in WWE that finishes in a very satisfying way? Like something where you're like, yes, this is a good finish, because there still had to be the Jey Uso interference, and I understand why. It makes sense in the story, but why did we need it? I don't think we necessarily needed it to really carry the end across. I think there's a lot of good that came out of the match. Clearly right now, Roman Reigns, Tribal Chief, he's the top guy in the entire company. That's what they wanted to establish. That's what we already felt. But Drew here was able to hang with him. It was just a step away from it. So I understand the story, but I just wish sometimes there was a way for WWE to feel like they can protect people without having fuck finishes. And I think this would have been the kind of match where, kind of like Sasha and Asuka during the earlier in the night, it would have been the kind of match that no one would have looked weak. There wouldn't have been no weak looking. There wouldn't have been anyone finishing the match looking weak. I think both guys would have come out really, really strong. Drew would have looked great. Roman is Roman these days. He's absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? Fantastic. Let's just go with that one. How about that? We'll just go with that one. We have a super chat from Louis Olivier Pelletier, who says, I think violence is a lack of word. Wrestlers should learn to name their emotions. Don't you think? Like, give them names like Stanley and Jefferson, Pauline. I thank you for the super chat, person that I don't know. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And to wrap it all up, we had Undertaker's final goodbye that happened in the ring, filled up with legends: Jeff Hardy, JBL, Kevin Nash, Rikishi, Big Show, Shane McMahon. Big pop for the Godwins, not gonna lie. The Godfather, Savio Vega, Mick Foley, Shawn Michaels, Booker T, Ric Flair, Triple H, and Kane. But then they all left the ring so that Vince could come into the ring, and then Vince left the ring so that Undertaker could have one more walk around the ring. Now, Undertaker, man, crazy ass career, like 30 plus years, nutsoid, right? The stats here for you that our girl Kristen Ashley pulled off, but you know, she just went to Cage Match and collected the stats and just plopped them out there. But I still will give her credit because she made a nice little tweet out of it. Undertaker in his career wrestled 2,388 matches. And we're saying Undertaker. We should say Mark Calloway. 2,388 matches. 1,779 wins to 500, and 14 losses, 95 draws. That is bananas. It's mind-boggling to me. As numbers for a fighter go, that is just nuts. And I was watching the proceedings and the last big entrance, with the whole regalia, and it was cool. And I was like, okay, probably at some point, production is probably saying, this is one of the last times we're going to be doing this. So they went all out as well. I was looking at it, I was like, okay, this is cool. Taker hits the ring, grabs a microphone. And then, of course, you had the piped in thank you Taker chants, right? Which I thought was corny. But then as he was standing there with his microphone and sort of like milking the audience for a reaction, sort of soaking it in when there was no one around, I started to get a little bummed because I was at a point where I was like, man, this guy should have got a send-off in front of an audience. He should have had 17,000 people just screaming their heads off, cheering for 4 minutes, not letting Undertaker say a single word. That would have been amazing. That would have been absolutely fantastic. So as it went on, I realized it started to dawn on me how contrived this whole thing was. And it sort of took the energy out of it for me. But it's my own personal experience. I've seen tons of people online going, what a fantastic send-off. And I think it was the best possible send-off he could get, in the circumstances. But I can't help but think that this guy who destroyed his body for 30 odd years should have had the opportunity to say goodbye in front of a live crowd and get that love from that live crowd one last time. And I was talking about it with Kristen, and Kristen made a very, very good point. When we were talking about this, she said, because she was sympathetic to my point, but she also said it's also on him. Like, he's the guy who didn't want to retire. He's the guy who was like, oh, yeah, I'll go to Saudi Arabia. Oh, one more match with Roman Reigns. And she's not entirely wrong. Could anyone? No, look, no one could have predicted COVID. Like, this is the worst case of the worst case scenarios here. So, I mean, it sucks. Like, the circumstances are awful, but she's not entirely wrong. Could WWE have waited a bit? I think so. I think they could have postponed it. I'm ready to bet money that once arenas start opening up, they are going to have Taker come back for a final salute. You know what I mean? And then you're going to be like, and then there's going to be all sorts of arguments on Twitter. But honestly, in the context, I think it was the best possible situation. Evan Wright left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Evan. Again, I appreciate it. He says, any idea why AEW manages to make their people look strong and defeat every time, but WWE manages to fumble the ball? I don't get it. I think part of it, that's a very good question. I think part of it goes to the idea that a loss in WWE is like this detrimental thing that there's this psychology behind a loss that if you lose, you're out of it. You're not a contender. You're not important. You're not special. You know, it's like kind of thing. Whereas when you, whereas in AEW and hell, even in New Japan, I mean, you have their top tier names during the G1 losing matches, and it's not like, they're so not credible anymore. It's part of, if you let wrestlers tell in-ring stories, and eventually it comes down to, well, what did that wrestler learn in defeat that he can apply next time when he fights this individual? You know, New Japan, that's entirely how it's based. You go and look back at the history. The commentary takes the time to walk back some of the history and make sure that you understand that Jay White and Kota Ibushi, well, they fought in this circumstance. This is, you know, Ibushi won that time, but White won that time, and so on and so forth. So I think that's part of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why AEW works. But then again, I also think I'm also wondering how long, in certain cases, as far as AEW goes, how long will they be able to drag out, let's say, a Jungle Boy before he losing the big matches all the time before he actually starts getting a winning record? Because, as I like to say, no one likes to back a loser. We don't mind if people lose once in a while, and I'm definitely not advocating for 50-50 booking. But, you know, when you have a star in your hands like Jungle Boy, well, you know, at some point he has to be more than a jobber to the stars. He has, you know, you sort of have to push him into a contention where he'll be considered credible, right? But, you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I basically, that's how I think. I think that's the main difference between how losses are handled. DGMC left us a super chat. Thank you again, DGMC. Says, should Retribution have laid Taker out? No, absolutely not. Knowing you, DGMC, I'm not sure. I don't know if this is a joke or not. But absolutely not. Evan Wright left us a super chat. Again, thank you very much. Says, Taker never made Tanahashi cry. Therefore, Liger better than Taker. Look, it's a good measuring stick. We're talking about at Jushin Thunder Liger's retirement ceremony. Has a lot of the New Japan roster was out there, and Hiroshi Tanahashi during the proceedings was crying. I think I agree. Okay, let's get the cool beans off here. Let's talk about some hot trash. Debate Club that opened up Raw, right? I mean, there you go, right? When your pay-per-view doesn't have any stakes and you bring out the winning team and they're all like there, and Adam Pearce is there and he says, all right, fellas, so tonight we're going to figure out who's going to be the next contender. So, and he looks over at everyone, the whole Raw team is like, if anyone wants to make a case for why they, and I'm like, what the fuck is this Debate Club? They're going to argue their way into number one contendership. Look at how this could have been settled at Survivor Series. Jesus Christ. And I swear I was sitting in front of my TV and I was like this. And I wasn't saying anything because no one was around, and or was someone like, if a tree falls in a forest, blah, blah, blah. But look, I was there. I was like this. There's the proof. Give Survivor Series elimination matches stakes. Because that was pointless. What? And then backstage, Randy Orton wasn't even in the fucking match. I need to talk to you. Oh, Randy Orton made a compelling case. Bobby Lashley. He made a compelling case. Oh, what's so infuriating, right? I mean, it's so frustrating. And we got Riddle versus Sheamus, which I actually liked. I thought it was a fun match. Imagine letting Sheamus just be a guy who wants to beat people up instead of having like some inane angle where he's making fun of where he's making fun of addicts. Imagine that. Imagine that, and it kind of works, you know. Randy Orton versus AJ Styles. I don't know if you watched Raw. Did you hear that Randy Orton versus AJ Styles in the main event of Raw was a WrestleMania worthy main event? Did you hear that? Did you guys pick up on that? Because, you know, they mentioned it maybe once. They said it was a WrestleMania-worthy main event. I hope you guys picked up on that. Keith Lee versus Bobby Lashley was fine. I like how, you know, Lashley was unable. I like it how Lashley was unable to lock in the full Nelson because Keith Lee is such a big boy. Yeah. I like that. That's cool. But I mean, make a case for why you should be the number one contender. All wrestling is all competition. It's all based on competition. Have them fight. Adam Pearce, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Adam Pearce. Let them fight. My God. Super chats. Let's see. Evan Wright left one. He says, I'm praying just once Raw or SmackDown has an AEW opener. When was the last I feel like the last time they did it, it was like, it was earlier this year, but like late winter, and they had Charlotte. It was a women's match. They had Charlotte and I can't quite remember. And I popped. I was like, Jesus, they're starting with a match. And I will never bitch about a wrestling show that starts with a match. Even NXT does that. I will never be mad at that. Regardless of the quality of the match. I will never complain. Thank you for the super chat, Evan. DGMC left us a super chat as well. Again, thank you very much. Again, he says, Meckenfart, bigger than Top Flight getting signed by AEW. Hell yeah! Greatest flub of the year. And here's the thing. It's a Drew McIntyre. And here's the... This is when I start constructing my little fantasy worlds here. McIntyre and McInfart don't even sound the same. Like they're on two... Like, it's not as if you flubbed or called him McInfire, you know, where you're like, oh, okay. No, it's McInfart. I'm willing to bet 10 Canadian fun bucks that it's an actual nickname that they gave Drew backstage. Like they call him that for some reason. Maybe there is a fart related rib that happened at some point and they call him Meckenfart. It feels like a backstage thing that just peeked through. That Adam Pearce is like, oh shit, I call him Meckenfart all the time. You know, and it just slipped through. I thought it was so good. Fantastic. I loved it. Mr. Fretz left us a super chat as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Fretz. He says, I'll take a McWarren with extra salt, please. Some things make me naturally salty. You get your natural levels of, these natural levels of salt that just happen. All right, let's keep on keeping on. What should we do next? All right, let's go to a super chat then. Over to Anakin, who left us another super chat. Thank you again very much, Anakin. I appreciate it. He says, Meckenfart happened because Roman called Drew a piece of shit. I get it, but I really think it's like a nickname that they really pass along, that they have for him backstage, and it just seeped through. Just, you know, out of force of habit kind of thing, you know. But thank you for the super chat, Anakin. Okay, so Cool Beans. We're gonna Cool Beans the hell out of okay, well, the whole Team Taz segment on AEW. Not gonna lie, Powerhouse Hobbs, I don't dig it. It's a little too much on the nose for me. Will Hobbs is fine. Rolls off the tongue. Will Hobbs. And, I mean, we don't need to be told he's a powerhouse because look at the guy, you know? So it kind of makes me wonder, well, what's Brian Cage then in Team Taz? If Will Hobbs is your I don't know. It's a tiny thing, but, you know, I think it was an unnecessary name change. Or the powerhouse Will Hobbs, but like his official powerhouse. Yeah, all right. I get it. You know. But after he has his squash match, that being said, and I want to point, and I talked about this on the pre-show yesterday, which you should definitely check out, by the way, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The fact that not only that Will Hobbs was given a squash match on Dynamite, but it was advertised is a big deal. And I think it really goes to show just how much AEW is behind the kid and how much they know the fans like him, that they want to see him wrestle. And it's cool that we're able to start talking a little more about AEW dark success stories. You know, people coming up like Red Velvet. Anna Jay is going to be an early one. Will Hobbs. It's cool that we're starting to get to that point where it's like, these are AEW bred stars. These are people that AEW made and are growing. You can keep your Ben Carter discussions to yourselves. That's a whole other basket. But in this case here, I think it's really telling. And I think it's super cool. Evan Wright left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Evan, he says, Hobbs in the Taz gear made him look like a star. The orange and black looks good on him, doesn't it? Singlet looks awesome. I think it was a very, very relevant choice of gear right here. So that being said, after the match, Taz gets the microphone and he starts talking about the Ftw title. He says it doesn't get any respect. And he says he created it because he says AEW is not acknowledging the title. It's lifestyle. It's not being recognized. He said that, you know, I created this title and there's a legacy behind this. A legacy. The legacy of the Ftw title. Tough men, tough bastards have held this title. So let's just run down the list of this legacy of people who have held the Ftw title. First of all, Taz, because let's not forget Taz created the title in ECW because he wasn't getting a world title shot. So he said, fuck you, I'll create my own title. So, okay. So Taz. Sabu won it, I think, for like 30 days. Brian Cage. There's your legacy. I get what he was saying. It's just funny where I get it. It's a very heel thing to do. This is my title. It's a big deal of it when it's not really that big a deal. You know what I mean? When Taz, I mean, you made it yourself and you defended it pretty much. You're the only person who really held it for any length of time. So I thought it was funny. So, but the promo was cool because they started cutting off his mic. You know, it felt a little dangerous. You know, it's like, oh, he shouldn't be saying this stuff. You know. And eventually Cody comes out in production because Taz wants to talk to someone in management. So Cody comes out and he's got his producer headpiece on and a pea coat. And I'm like, who sits at the production table with the microphone, with the headset, the microphone, and calling shots in a fucking pea coat? Come on, Cody. I know you have a good sense of fashion, Codesworth, but Jesus, right? And the pea coat, it was even in the way when Taz tried to lock in the Taz match anyway. So it was, so he comes out and he says someone from management is here. I'll digest what you're saying, Taz, and I'll run it up the flagpole. And I'm like, oh, Cody he's being an EVP. He's being super corporate. I love this. But then Taz responds and is like, oh, what's next? You're going to tell me creative's got nothing for me? Boosh! There's a right. You're going to wish me best luck in my future endeavors? Boof! There's a left hook right there. And I was like, what? And then Cody got hot. And I love that Cody got really, really hot about it, because he's like, oh, are you trying to say that I'm kind of like those other guys up north? Is that that I'm like Triple H, that I'm like Vince? Is that what you're trying to tell me? So he just picks up the microphone and he says, well, you know what, FTW, fine. If it's so good, why is it that your son who's trying to be a wrestler is training with me instead of you? That pisses Taz off proper, and he puts him in a Taz mission. Now, this is the kind of promo that I sit back, I look at it, I enjoy it, and I'm like, I'm into this. I love this feud. This is probably there's a fair chance that this is on my top views in AEW right now. And look at what they did. Look at what they did. And this is kind of what I've been trying to say, or at least maybe there weren't tons of shenanigans. There wasn't, Titantrons and, dance numbers or whatever. Just two guys cutting really good promos on each other regarding wrestling things. And they sold me a ticket for their match next week. A match where I was like, Darby and Cody versus FTW, Team Taz. But now I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And I also get that AEW has this capacity to showcase all sorts of different types of wrestling. You've got the indie style spot fests that we got with Top Flight. I don't know if you heard, they've been signed by AEW. Between Top Flight and the Hybrid 2, you get a more classic worked match between like Page and Silver. And then you'll get like the spectacle, like the more over the top promos and skits with MJF and Jericho. And then you turn around and you get some super grounded promos like this one here. And I think that this is where AEW really, really shines. And this has always been this has always been the territory in which they've differentiated themselves from the people in Stanford. This capacity to create a compelling wrestling story just by having people on the microphone talking to each other, getting mad, and then promising that they'll beat each other up in a couple of weeks. And that's it. And they're so good at it. And sometimes I wonder why they lean into too much of the over the top stuff, when that's something that we get fed up with when WWE leans too much into it, To me, that is their main point of difference. Why do you think a guy like Eddie Kingston, who was signed in July, was able to get a main event shot, a main event title at the top of a pay-per-view like 4 months later? That's the kind of culture that they're developing there. And that's what I watch AEW for too. That I want it to be different. I don't want things to be homogenized. There's a wise person who once told me that competition makes everything the same eventually, and pointing out things on especially in tech. Look at the fleets on Twitter. Why do we need fleets on Twitter? Well, it's because everyone else has stories, right? Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube. Well, we got to put the stories on Twitter. But why? It's because competition, I don't like it when competition turns into everyone does the same thing. You want, if there's competition, there has to be different offers, different values. I'm excited for this. This was a good promo, and I liked it. Cool beans, as they say. You know what else was cool beans? Second week without a contract signing. Maybe I should put on. Do I have something I could? No, yeah, I don't have much. I was just looking at what I had. Maybe that could be cool, but no, I don't have anything that's cool to play, like a music, a theme. I'm sorry, but no contract signing 2 weeks in a row means that they're doing it right. They're doing it right. Because the idea of the contract signing isn't bad. It's the execution of contract signings, which are always the same thing. Last week, Jon Moxley got punked out. Last night it was Omega, and I loved it. I love Moxley coming in, seeing him get all silhouetted and then doing his shoulder roll. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Boom! I loved it. The less contract signings, boys and girls, the better. And more cool beans. Death Triangle versus Butcher and the Blade. My God, folks. That was a good one. What a brutal, awesome match there is. Now, we're all going to sit around here and we're going to talk about pack. And with reason. You see the guy wrestle and then you realize just how much you miss him. You missed him. Where was he all that? Well, we knew where he was, but we missed having him on TV. Frankly, I think he's the most well-rounded wrestler because he does everything, and he does everything convincingly. He does the high spots, the flying stuff like no one else, but he's strong. He's fucking strong. Like, there's a lot of high flyers that when it's time to strike, you're like, haha, noodle arms, but not him. When he decides to kick you, it looks harsh. So it worked. And then on top of that, his selling is exquisite. His selling is impeccable. I think he's the perfect wrestler. This is my point. Rey Fenix, cool as always. He ate a lot of shit in this match. He was your babyface in peril. It was good. But, man, this may have been the match. I liked Butcher and the Blade, but I think this match turned me into a fan. I think I'm legitimately a fan. I've liked them, but I think, because I'll tell you what I like about them, and I think, again, this is one of the strengths that AEW has. They're, especially in the case of Butcher, right? They're smash mouth. They're just power guys. They just want to fuck you up, and they don't do pretty moves. Butcher is not about finesse. He's not smooth, he's not a guy where you're like, oh, look at him right now, go kind of thing. Nah, when he does his body presses, man, he just lunges at you, and you're like, and he lunges at you in a way where it's like, he's just like, I'm coming for you. I'm falling on you, kind of, and I love it. I think it's great. And that's what's become very endearing to me for Butcher and Blade. It just the rough, unpolished parts of them. That type of grit that I think is lacking a lot in not lacking a lot. Let me rephrase that. We're used to our wrestling being so smooth and polished and clean that when you see guys do great stuff but looking a little rough, you're like, wow, okay, it actually looks innovative, as opposed to, he would have fit in perfectly in 1989. I like it. I like the throwback of this. I like this tag team match. Can you imagine Eddie Kingston being that big a heel that we are forced to perceive Pac as a babyface in this feud? Can you imagine? That's how goddamn good Eddie Kingston is at his job. He'll get you to hate him, and the other guy who isn't necessarily any nicer, well, you're gonna cheer for him because you think because Kingston's such a bastard. Well, Pac's the bastard. You know what I mean. I love this. Archer coming in, attacking everyone after the match, setting something up with Eddie Kingston, and there's a lot of moving parts here, and I can dig it. I love Death Triangle back together. Wasn't it cool to see all three of them do their entrance with the pyro? I think the not having Death Triangle for the better part of 2020 is probably one of the greatest things that COVID took away from us. This right now, I think just on the strength of what happened last night, it's probably my favorite feud in AEW right now. The Death Triangle, Eddie Kingston family stuff, I think it's gold. Evan Wright left us another super chat. Thank you very much, Evan. He says, Eddie Kingston on commentary bickering with Tony is the best. Wasn't like WWE commentary bickering where it took everything away from the match. I don't know. Sometimes, and this is how convincing Kingston is, right? You sometimes wonder, does he have real heat? With Shivani? Is there something? Because he was just jabbing at him throughout. It was really good. It was a lot of fun. Eddie Kingston, I think it's hard to argue. Eddie Kingston is going to be the success story of 2020. Comes in for one match for the TNT title, gets himself over like nuts. AEW cannot but sign him during the summer, and in the fall, he is headlining a pay-per-view for the World Championship. That, honestly, and knowing the struggles that he's been through, this has been a long time coming, and I'm very, very happy for him. I really do. Anakin left us a super chat as well. Thank you very much, Anakin. I appreciate it. Says, side note, whenever Pac and Cody have a match, I hope Pac says at some point, the last time we fought, you were starry-eyed. Ooh, yeah. And then Cody could say, yeah, and you actually had a first name. You had a real first name. Oh, that was good. And one last thing before we wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection. Sheeta versus Anna Jay. It was good, strong match. I liked it. I thought it was good. I was very, very anxious to see Anna Jay back on a main stage like that. She carried her own. It wasn't the blow-away match of the century. You're not gonna be like, oh, it's so good, but from the last time we saw her in the ring, she has put the work in and she has improved dramatically. Now, I want to talk about this because just want to make a note of it, because I do get a lot of flack from people saying, yeah, all you want to do is complain about the AEW women's division, and not complain, criticize first and foremost. Second of all, yes, if they're doing a bad job, I will. But here again, little trail of breadcrumbs here that they're leaving us, that they started last week, and they're continuing this week. Another solid, strong match. No one looked goofy. No one looked stupid. There weren't any blown spots. It was good. So we're, off of last week, they had set up like 3 storylines for the women. Moving into this week, you're starting to feel like maybe they're getting their footing, that there might be something happening here, that they might start leaning a little harder into their women's division moving forward. I can only hope that they do. I still want to know what the hell is up with the NWA. But I'll tell you one thing, and I'll just tell you this. All right, I'll just tell you this. The one thing that I think they should do is continue building the feuds even if they don't have a match. because I think one of the most compelling things that happened last week was Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. And nothing came out of that. Right? Nothing came out of that at all. And that kind of bugs me. It because they don't necessarily have to have a match to continue. Right? They don't necessarily have to have a match or have some in-ring stuff. They can just cut a promo. Again, they had 2 segments with Kenny Omega on last night. Did they really need 2 segments with Kenny? Could have they not done just Britt talking shit? Or, Thunder Rosa talking shit? Just lean into these segments a little more. Lean into it, Sure, it was cool to see FTR back, and Matt Hardy, but they're like teasers to things to come. They weren't necessary. It would have been nice to have some follow-up from last week. Maybe Big Swole being like, confronting Vicky Guerrero. It's like, what is your deal? Why were you keeping people away from helping Brandy? Whatever, That's all. I think that's all they really need to do. They just don't let these things die away. Just like slip and then fall flat, and then in 2 weeks bring them back. Slight, but I'm in good faith here. Not saying they're doing a rotten job. I say au contraire. I feel there's something coming up here. A couple of super chats here. DGMC left us another super chat. Thank you very much. It says, Cody's peacoat makes him look like a mob boss's kid. It's funny. It's funny because he does. I think that's really good. Thank you very much for that super chat. Evan Wright left us a super chat as well. Thank you very much. He says, Taz cuts the best chip on your shoulder promos of all time. What a complete drop of the ball by both WWE and TNA with how they've used him. Shame. Oh, it was all politics in WWE though, right? It was all politics. He was too small, and so on and so forth. But that was part of Taz's mystique, right? I agree. He does cut some great chip on your shoulder promos. Cody Rhodes does too, and Edward Kingston. John Moxley's not bad at it either. And Evan Wright left us another super chat as well. He says, thank you. Well, he doesn't say thank you very much. I tell him thank you very much. He says, would you agree that you see effort being made in regards to the AEW women's division? Yes. For the past couple of weeks, I have felt like they're putting some effort into it on Dynamite. I completely agree. Yes. I want them to do more. Like I said, like they can add in a few more segments, as well, and on Dynamite. And that's cool. Like they can. They choose to do other things. Let's never forget that. But so they can. But that being said, yes, I think that they've made some very good choices in regards to women recently. They've got some good talent lined up, and the people that they've been working on seem to be paying off. So it is there is hopeful signs moving forward, but I'm excited to see where all this goes. Week per week. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, folks, that was the weekly wrestling inspection. Leave a like on this video if you haven't already. Jeez, I'm not asking for much. It's the little thingy, a clickety clack. One last thing before we go. I don't know if you guys, if you saw this, because it's sort of passed by fairly quickly. We are in, but WWE last week. It came out last week. on November 20th, the WWE had made an SEC filing revealing that the company had closed a $39 million settlement for a class action lawsuit that was filed by the city of Warren, Michigan Police and Fire Department Retirement System. Now, the suit had been filed alleging that WWE executives had deceived their investors over their business dealings in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, inflating company stock and selling more than $280 million worth of shares at fraudulently inflated prices. This lawsuit had been filed last March and had been consolidated by 6 different law firms, and it's alleged that WWE officials failed to disclose how the expected business agreements with Saudi Arabia for their much touted Middle Eastern TV deal, how it had not been consummated, how it didn't come to pass, but that by allowing investors to believe otherwise, the company had caused their stock to rise when it shouldn't have. So basically saying, you didn't tell anyone that the TV deals weren't working out, but you were letting on that they were without really saying that they weren't, or that they were. You were just sort of inferring it, and that raised the stock prices. WWE, so basically a settlement was reached here, and WWE included the following statement in the filing. The company believes, the company being WWE, of course, this is a direct quote, the company believes that resolving the matter is the right business decision and that it is prudent to end the protracted and uncertain class action process. It also adds that the settlement will, again, quote, will not contain any admission of liability or admission as to the validity or truth of any or all allegations or claims by any of the defendants. Now, why are we talking about this? Seems kind of dull, but not really, because this is all tied into Crown Jewel, right? And the dealings with Saudi Arabia. You will recall that Crown Jewel, bunch of stuff happened. The show started late, and not only did it start late, but it wasn't even aired live. It was aired an hour later. It was on tape delay, an hour tape delay, and people were wondering why did that happen. And there was the whole thing with the airplane, with the WWE wrestlers on the airplane. That didn't take off. This was broken by Hugo Savinovich. He broke that news that WWE wrestlers were being kept grounded in Saudi Arabia, being effectively held hostage because there was some kind of disagreement between WWE and the Crown Prince. Savinovich, by the way, he's a former wrestler himself. Former WWE Spanish commentator. He now announces for AAA and runs Lucha Libre Online as well. The interesting thing here that I just want to point out, because not everyone, I don't think the entire scope of this is entirely clear. But there's a very telling message here. The settlement means that the lawsuit won't go to court, so there isn't an exploration phase where basically all the documents are made public and then people can start rummaging through it, the allegations, the defenses, and so on and so forth. We don't know what the city of Warren had on WWE, right? We don't know what allegations or proof anyway that they were bringing forward to what evidence. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. What evidence that they were bringing forward to support their argument. So WWE decided to settle out of court so that none of this would become public record.
Oh, yeah.
Now this is why it's really, really interesting to me. When is the last time that WWE settled a lawsuit out of court? Because they're fighters, right? And they like to They like to flex their muscles, and they like to say, we'll fight tooth and nail, and they're fine. When was the last time WWE settled a lawsuit out of court? They settled out of court with Martha Hart. And there are multiple reasons for why they settled with Martha Hart. The general feeling, of course, is that they didn't want anything being leaked out. And if you watch the Owen Hart Dark Side of the Ring doc, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. When Martha was confronted at some point with the choice, it's like, you either take this to court or you take the settlement and you take the money. And Martha was like, well, if I take the settlement, WWE won't be held accountable for anything that happened. And this kind of feels like the same way. There's stuff that WWE does not want out there. And it's a bit of a shame, because I think there are some things that aren't quite clear. There have been rumors, reports that Vince McMahon got into a fight with the Crown Prince, that they argued over money, and Vince decided to hold the show hostage. So when the show ended, well, the Crown Prince decided, I'm going to hold your people hostage, basically. There's a rumor that it was the corporate VP of talent relations who got into it with the Saudis. There's a lot of stuff that exists there. Why was the show aired? Why did it start 1 hour later than expected? And why was it on an hour tape delay? What happened to that flight where wrestlers were boarded? They were put on the flight. They sat there for 6 hours, if I'm not mistaken, saying that mechanical failure, the engines needed to be reloaded. And all the wrestlers found it to be super suspicious, because wrestlers fly, they're always in planes. They know how things work. So when things seem a little fishy, I think they can pick up on it fairly easily. WWE continues to assert that the flight was simply delayed because of normal mechanical issues, and they haven't accounted, publicly anyway, for any of the discrepancies that caused the wrestlers and their families to become concerned. Nor have they ever explained why why Crown Jewel was aired on delay 1 hour after its start time. And we'll probably never know at this point. But I think clearly, WWE has something to hide in this circumstance, because I don't see how they could have settled, why they would have settled. And I also haven't, people say, well, why wouldn't they have settled, Warren, instead of going to court with this? $39 million. They have insurance for this kind of stuff, for these kinds of lawsuits. They're insured. They're going to take a hit with their premiums, of course, but they're insured for this kind of shit. 39 million. It's a pittance. Sure, but when you're as combative as WWE can get, right? With their legal recourses, it's really strange here that they decide to just shut everything down. Let's settle out of court. It's not strange, is not the right word. It is highly interesting, especially in the case of the Saudi stuff, because they're very, very cagey about their relationship with Saudi Arabia and the money that comes in from there. It's it's a little odd. It always feels a little strange. But look, we will see what will happen next week, because there's nothing Saudi related that's going to happen anytime soon. We'll see how this relationship continues to be maintained, to go on. We shall see. But in the meantime, we shall see to it that we all have a wonderful end of the evening, because we're going to wrap up tonight's edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I want to thank everyone who showed up tonight. Oh, we do have super chats. And a second. Just before we wrap things up, Evan Wright left us another super chat. He says, where is my Best of Super Juniors and Tag League recap? Coward. Tag League, I'm not recapping. I am not. I'm a little behind on Best of Super Juniors. Not going to lie. And it sucks. Because I've heard there's some great... I've caught a couple. I'll have to do something about that. I'll figure it out. It'll come, Evan. Thank you for the super chat. Anakin JMT left us a super chat as well. He says, Crown Jewel never happened, Warren. Never happened. Tell that to Bill Goldberg. Wait, was that a Crown Jewel? I don't care. What am I talking about? I don't care. So there we go. So thank you all again very much for popping in this evening. Thank you very much for all your support. Per usual, if you made it this far and you liked what you heard, do consider giving the video a thumbs up, and that would be great. And then if this is your first time watching the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, consider subscribing. That's very cool. Subscriptions help out as well. So tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m., right before SmackDown, another pre-show. Come and join me right here. Should be a lot of fun. Otherwise, that's it. We're going to wrap it up right now. Thank you all very much once again for coming, and I'll see you next time.